Hello and welcome to this Red Gaming Tech video. Myself, Amata, where as always I'm here with the latest from the tech world in the last 24 or so hours. We've got a little bit of a smorgasbord for you today. So let's get started, shall we, as we have a fair bit to get through. Now unfortunately we're going to kick things off today on a bit of a down note with an interesting report coming from Chinese investigators. Now according to these investigators, they have found quote unquote massive evidence of anti-competitive behaviour by the top 3 manufacturers of computer memory chips. Not exactly great when we've already got a bit of tension going on in the trade world. Now, these officials did a price-fixing investigation into Samsung, Micron and SK Hynix, and they have said that they've made, quote, important progress. Now I do have a bit of a statement here from the head of China's Anti-Monopoly Bureau under the State Administration for Market Regulation, and he said, quote, the anti-monopoly investigation into these 3 companies has made important progress. It has yielded massive evidence. Sadly, that is all he had to say. He didn't actually go into specifics, and naturally, unsurprisingly, none of the companies named have responded to a request for comment. Now, if all of this is sounding a touch familiar, it should, because you may remember back in April there was a class action lawsuit in the US which alleged that the 3 companies basically conspired to inflate DRAM prices. Now, I'm sure you guys remember all too well how much DRAM actually rose to, how crazy expensive it got for even the most basic kit. Now obviously all 3 companies are contesting this, but an analyst by the name of King Young Woo at SK Securities said that fines could be imposed of more than 2.5 billion on each of the 3 companies in the worst case scenario if they are found to have fixed prices, so 2.5 billion each. At least if I'm understanding this article correctly. So even for companies as big as, you know, Samsung, Micron and SK Hynix, that is not exactly something you're going to find down the back of the sofa. That is going to hurt a lot. Now he did say, quote, this would create additional pressure to cut DRAM prices and build more wafer factories as joint ventures with local Chinese companies to spur the transfer of technology to China. Now obviously if they are found to have fixed prices, as these not only the investigators are trying to find out, but of course the class action lawsuit alleges, that is obviously going to have some pretty far-reaching ramifications. It's going to have a very interesting ripple effect, not only because obviously the bill on each company is going to be high, even for companies of this size, and obviously they're going to be probably kept under a closer watch for the future when it comes to the pricing of DRAM and whether or not, you know, the price increase is natural due to shortages or to other reasons. Now obviously we're going to have to wait and see for the results of the investigations to find out exactly what is going on here, but I do find that wording of massive evidence rather curious, and I'm definitely awaiting to see what exactly this evidence is. Of course, until we get that evidence, we should hold off on judgment, but just keep in mind that these comments have been made. So let's move on from one piece of bad news to the next, shall we? And what we are seeing here is for the first half of 2019 at least, things are looking a touch bleak for manufacturers of both graphics cards and motherboards in Taiwan. This is due to various things which have emerged in the 3rd quarter of 2018. Now, one of these is unsurprisingly that good old cryptocurrency mining bubble, which of course has well and truly burst. Obviously, we have seen the shortages of Intel CPUs, the whole 14nm issues. We have talked about numerous times, as well as a lackluster buying sentiment at terminal markets amid the US-China trade war. And again, this is according to the industry sources of digitimes.com. Now, further according to Digitimes' sources, these negative factors have combined to drive up inventory levels at Gigabyte, ASUS and other key manufacturers of motherboards and graphics cards in the 3rd quarter of 2018. So obviously this is the peak season as we are approaching Christmas, so it is a pretty bad sign that they are not seeing, well, they are seeing such bad results, I suppose I should say, and well, unfortunately it's continuing to look rather bleak for them as we move into the first half of 2019. demand in the DIY area, which obviously is where we are with custom PC builds. You buy your motherboard, CPU, all that separately and throw it together yourself. There's also poor growth in the Chinese market as well. And there is the whole thing of the price tags for Nvidia's Turing and the performance gains therein. So we are going to be having a bit of a bad time, at least when it comes to these companies, in the first half of 2019. We may indeed see prices raised on some cases to maintain profitability, as of course they face some rather tough times as we move into 2019. We have seen ASUS's earnings plunge rather significantly by 43%. We also saw Gigabyte's plunge as well. So they're generally not having a very good time in what should be a peak period for them. Now obviously we've still got the fourth quarter of this year to go. There is that to keep in mind, but it's still not good, to say the least, that they are seeing the results that they are. But with all that said, we're going to move over from that to something from Intel and Cascade Lake X, as we have a very interesting report from Ashraf Essa of the Motley Fool, who has come along to dampen the flames of any hype that you may have had for the Cascade Lake X processors, and they have said that we shouldn't be expecting any real big changes from these. Now, these are a refresh design of Skylake X, and apparently the main changes we are going to be seeing on this new entry into the lineup is the use of STIM, soldered thermal interface material, and of course those higher clock speeds, but the rest is pretty much exactly the same as the 7th generation Core X part, and we also still see the use of 14nm+. That is one of the many reasons why 14nm has been so stretched, because, well, Intel would probably spread it on their sandwiches if they could. Now obviously we've talked a little bit on this channel about Cascade Lake X SP, that is also based on Skylake, but obviously Skylake SP, that does have a little more to offer in terms of new stuff, as it supports deep learning and DC persistent memory, but the most major change, is hardware level mitigations for Spectre and Meltdown, and also a 14nm++ process node as well. But what about those increased clock speeds, I hear you ask? Well, we're looking at probably just an increase of 200 or 300 megahertz, which, you're going to be happy to have. You're not exactly going to be like, oh, I don't need it. Obviously you're gonna take it if it's offered, but it's not as great when you consider the very important fact that we're still stuck with the same architecture. But that is not the only Intel thing related to this that we actually have for you today. We have some rumblings and whisperings on the internet that we're going to be seeing the Glacier Falls platform featuring the X399 platform. Now, of course, we've heard that phrase X399 some time ago, which was later called Z399 by those very same rumours. Now we're going to finish things up today with a little bit of a clarification, a rebuttal as it were, to a recent report regarding the 2080 Ti. Now you may have seen the reports circulating the internet that the 2080 Ti had been delisted, but I'm here to be like, nope, the 2080 Ti has not been delisted, it's just out of stock. You can do this, find this out for yourself pretty simply. You can open a new tab. Okay, I know this is complicated, but stick with me, okay? You can open a new tab, you can go to geforce.com and see the project page still there, and it's just going its usual stock refresh cycle. So there were some rumours basically that because if it was out of stock, it was being delisted and was going to be mass recall. Even quoted a forum post which did say that some initial batches had problematic dies, which is fairly standard, to be honest, just due to how the fabrication process works. But this is just the RTX 2080 Ti being out of stock, and perhaps that plus the combination of the forum post was taken and some people ran with it, and perhaps a comment got out of hand and then rumours built on itself, and you kind of know how things can get out of hand once they're out on the interwebs. Not saying anyone's being malicious here, but just saying that from what I can see at least, it has not been delisted. And Nvidia even made a statement to WCCF Tech saying, quote, 2080 Ti Founders Edition is available on geforce.com as usual. There seems to be confusion regarding the store link on nvidia.com, which defaults to listing products that are currently in stock only. If a product does not show up there, that merely means the item is out of stock at the time you conducted a search. It does not mean a product has been delisted. So, yeah, it's hard to say what exactly happened here. It could have just been a comment that was taken the wrong way. The forum post, someone misunderstood some information. It's entirely possible it was malicious, but I'm not saying it was, obviously. The point is, the important takeaway here is it has not been delisted. The 2080 Ti is very complicated, so the fact that the initial run had some problems is not exactly surprising. That's normal, and even for a less complex die. And obviously, the 2080 Ti is very, very complex when it comes to that sort of thing. And it's just having stock issues. Basically, it's selling like hotcakes, and Nvidia are just refreshing their stock at present. Is essentially what it comes down to. Anyway, that is me done for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.